The notification popped up on my phone at 9:12 p.m. Direct deposit $2,400, Klein Property Management. I stared until the numbers blurred. That was my security deposit. I moved out 2 weeks ago. Pause. I had lived in 214 West Elm Street, apartment 3B for 2 years. My name was Ava Martinez. Rent was $1,200 a month. I paid a $2,400 security deposit on June 1, 2019. My landlord was Damian Klein. He ran Klein Property Management out of a shabby office above a nail salon on Main Street. People in the building joked about him. "He'll find a way to keep your deposit," Mrs. Nguyen, the super, told me the first week I moved in. I ignored it. I shouldn't have. By July 31, 2023, I had my job transfer packet in hand in 12 hours to be out. I cleaned top to bottom. I scrubbed grout until my hands stung. I patched a tiny nail hole with spackle and painted over it with the leftover can Damien had given me when I moved in. I took photos on my phone: living room at 3:18 p.m., kitchen sink at 3:22 p.m., bedroom carpet at 3:28 p.m. The timestamps were clear. I texted Damien the same day at 4:05 p.m. I moved out and left the keys in the drop box. Please confirm receipt and return the deposit. He read it and didn't reply. 2 days later, I drove down to the apartment to make sure everything stayed in place. The mailbox had the move-out checklist he'd signed received at 4:10 p.m. the day I handed him the keys. I had the signed page. I mailed my forwarding address to him via certified mail. Receipt showed delivery on August 2, 2023 at 11:04 a.m. I uploaded everything to Google Drive, just in case. I wanted this closed. 30 days passed. No deposit. No itemized deductions. No phone calls. I called on September 3 and left a voicemail that said, "Hi Damien, it's Ava. It's been 30 days, please return my deposit or send an itemized list. Thank you." He did not call back. On September 10, I got a different kind of message. A letter slid under my new apartment door from Klein Property Management saying I owed $2,400 for unpaid rent and damages and they'd begun collection proceedings. "You left these charges unpaid," the letter said in black type. "Deposit applied." That was a lie. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. I pulled up my bank app. My stomach dropped when I saw the date, August 2, 2023, the exact day the certified mail was delivered. The deposit had been cashed. The description read, "Klein Prop, check deposit." But there was no itemized list, no receipts, and Damien had never told me he was deducting anything. I tried to call him. He didn't answer. I texted, "You cashed my deposit. Why? Where are the receipts?" He read the text and didn't reply. Pause. That was the turning point. I decided I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I did the boring, legal things first. I printed my move-out photos with timestamps. I printed the signed move-out checklist. I printed the certified mail receipt that proved I'd given him a forwarding address. I printed my bank statement showing the $2,400 deposit. I emailed him on September 15 at 9:03 a.m. with subject line, "Request for itemized deductions, 214 West Elm Street, apartment 3B, deposit $2,400. The body said, "Please provide itemized receipts within 10 days or I will pursue remedies under state law." He ignored it. Then I did the thing he wasn't expecting. I filed a small claims suit. The filing fee was $70. Case number, SC 2023-4889. I served him 2 days later. The sheriff served the papers August 22 at 7:45 a.m. at his office. I watched him get handed the envelope through the window. He looked right at me, and his face went pale. I wasn't reckless. I prepared for the hearing like I was preparing for a presentation that would decide whether I'd recover thousands of dollars. I brought a binder. Page 1, Lease Agreement. Page 2, the $2,400 deposit check image. Page 3 to 7, Move-out photos with timestamps. Page 8, Certified Mail Receipt. Page 9, the August 2nd bank deposit line. Page 10, a spreadsheet showing my attempts to contact him, texts, emails, voicemails with dates and times. I also found 3 neighbors who were ready to testify they'd seen the apartment in good condition the day I left. Mrs. Nguyen signed a 1-page statement. App 3B was vacated and left clean. No smoke damage, no water damage. H. Yang Nguyen, Building Superintendent. On the morning of the hearing, October 5, 2023, my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I stood in line at the courthouse and rehearsed what I'd say. The courtroom was small. The judge was a short woman with kind eyes and quick hands. Damien arrived late, 10 minutes before the hearing, sweating and muttering. He had a stack of stapled invoices he claimed justified withholding the deposit, a $600 smoke remediation charge, $400 carpet replacement, and $1,400 for unpaid rent. He shoved them at the clerk and smiled like someone who thought he had luck on his side. When my turn came, I spoke slowly. I said, "Your Honor, I moved out on July 31, 2023. I left the apartment clean. I provided my forwarding address via certified mail on August 2nd. Under our state law, the landlord must return a deposit or provide an itemized list within 30 days. Mr. Klein deposited my check on August 2nd and never provided any list." I handed the binder to the clerk. "Here are the photos, the certified mail receipt, and the bank posting showing my deposit." I watched the judge read. She flipped through pages and looked up at Damien. He tried to speak over me. "Judge, there was severe smoke damage." She didn't disclose. I cut in. "Your Honor, I have photos taken the day I left at 3:18 p.m. that show no smoke stains. Mrs. Nguyen is present and will testify the unit was clean. I asked for receipts and got none." Pause. Damien stammered. He produced an invoice for smoke remediation dated August 4, 2 days after he'd deposited my check. When the judge asked him for receipts or before and after photos to back up the invoice, he had none. No vendor name, no signature, just a hand-scrawled piece of paper. The judge frowned. Under oath, he admitted he had cashed the deposit check. He claimed he used it to offset unpaid rent from another tenant and swore he would send receipts later. The judge didn't like that answer. 2 things happened fast. First, the judge found that he had failed to provide an itemized statement within the required period. Second, the judge applied the statute that penalizes landlords for willfully withholding deposits. She awarded me the $2,400 deposit plus $6,000 in statutory damages and court costs, a total judgment of $8,492.50. Damien's jaw dropped. The courtroom felt cold. My hands were steady now, oddly calm. After the judgment, I filed for post-judgment remedies. I used the court's judgment to place a bank garnishment and a lien on one of his investment properties. I also filed a formal complaint with the State Housing Authority and uploaded copies of the judgment and the invoices he couldn't substantiate. Within 6 weeks, his property management license was flagged for an audit. 2 former tenants filed similar complaints after they saw the judgment online. One woman, Jenna, posted screenshots of a text thread where he bragged about keeping deposits if tenants give me attitude. That text was the last nail. Klein tried one last thing. He sent a demand letter asking me to settle for $1,000 and drop the garnishments. I laughed and forwarded the letter to the judge and the housing authority. He soon found himself with dozens of angry reviews, a frozen business account for the garnishment, and a license under suspension. The local paper picked up the story on November 12. Local landlord ordered to pay $8,492 after withholding tenant deposit. They quoted the judge's line, "Landlords must follow the law, not their wallets." That headline made a neighbor send me an iced coffee with a note, "Well done. M. Lopez, Apt 4A. Damien paid up in pieces." The garnishment hit his business account for $3,200 on December 2nd. The lien slowed the sale of his rental house on Maple Avenue. By January, he wired me the remainder plus $200 interest and $150 in court costs, totaling the judgment amount. I had to spend 2 days at the courthouse and $120 on certified mail and copying costs. The money didn't replace the stress or the time I lost, but it did sting him where it mattered. He'd been forced to pay for his own games in the public record. There were consequences beyond money. His license was suspended for 6 months, which cost him new contracts. Tenants started asking for receipts and signed check-ins. The building manager he relied on resigned to avoid being dragged down. A year later, Klein Property Management had lost 2 buildings and several longtime tenants. Word spread. People called the housing authority when they found shady clauses in leases. I heard from other tenants who said they felt empowered to fight. Mrs. Nguyen got a raise. I used my portion of the judgment to pay moving costs and to buy a proper showerhead for my new place. I still get angry when I think about how cavalier he was with other people's money, but the anger now sits next to a weird, quiet satisfaction. Would I do it again? Yes. It cost me time, stress, and a couple of weekends. I missed a Saturday brunch because I was in small claims. I spent nights composing polite but firm emails. I lost sleep. But every time I saw his business name plastered on that judgment, I felt like the hours were worth it. So here's what I learned and what I want anyone watching to know: document everything. Send certified mail. Take time-stamped photos. Keep receipts. If a landlord cashes a deposit and refuses to itemize, don't let fear shame you into silence. Small claims exist for a reason. Pause. What would you have done if your landlord cashed your deposit and never explained it?